Welcome to the program from the National Assembly House of Representatives. I am Mitaire Ikben. Nigeria's bicameral legislature has passed the National Minimum Wage Bill, which pegs the minimum wage for workers at 70,000 naira, and the review period reduced from 5 to 3 years. Both chambers of the National Assembly have also passed the 2024 Appropriation Act Amendment Bill, approving President Tinubu's request for 6.2 trillion naira, bringing the 2024 budget total to 35.055 trillion naira. On the program today, we have for you highlights of the House Plenary of July 18, 2024.
It's my honor and pleasure to call on Honorable Chinda to move his motion. Honorable Chinda.
Mr. Speaker, my dear colleagues, I rise this morning standing on Order 8, Rule 5 of the House Rules to seek your leave that I bring a matter of urgent national importance. And the gamut of the application is that we have read severally in the pages of newspaper and the social media the issues that has to do with a Nigerian who has invested so much to establish a refinery in this country, and he has been complaining that some of the international oil companies, IOCs, are ganging up against him to frustrate him from operating freely. He can no longer get crude locally and then has to be forced to go outside the shores of this country to get crude to refine locally. And I think that that is the nerve center of our country. We should take it as a matter of urgent national importance, look at it and see how we can verify some of the information that are flying out there. Secondly, on the same issue, yes, we're also aware that our country invested 20% into that refinery. And what we have heard is that it is now 7.5%. Whether it is true or not, I think that we should see this as an important national issue to certify the truth behind all this information for Nigerians to know. I therefore pray that you give the necessary support for me to take this matter as one of urgent national importance this morning. Thank you.
And I rise to second the first leg of this motion, that it is important and that we should take it as a matter of urgent public importance. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Those in support of this motion should say aye. Those against should say nay. The ayes have it. Honorable Chinda, please proceed.
Operations and survival of Dangote Refinery and the actual percentage holding of the federal government in Dangote Refinery. The House notes with interest the successful completion and coming into full operation of Dangote Oil Refinery and Petrochemicals. The House also notes that whereas Nigeria is a major oil producing and exporting country, she has for several years continued to import refined petroleum products from other countries to the detriment of the economic well-being of our country. The House notes further that Dangote Refinery, with a capacity of 650,000 barrels per day, is said to be Africa's largest refinery and the world's 7th largest by capacity. And its construction was meant to alleviate the petroleum products needs and accompanying pains faced by Nigerians. The House is aware that recently the management of Dangote Oil Refinery accused the IOCs operating in the country of conspiracy in an attempt to frustrate the smooth operations of the refinery. The House is also aware that the alleged conspiracy against Dangote Refinery relates to efforts by the IOCs to deliberately frustrate the refinery from buying local crude by manipulating and jacking up the premium price above the market price, thus forcing the refinery to reduce output. The House further notes, the House is further aware that according to the management of Dangote Refinery, whilst Nigerian Upstream Petroleum Regulatory Commission, NUPRC, was trying its best to allocate the crude to Dangote Refinery, the IOCs were deliberately frustrating Dangote Refinery's efforts to buy the local crude. The House is concerned that while IOCs are keen on exporting raw materials to their home countries and thus create wealth and employment for their countries, thereby adding to their GDP, Nigeria continues to be a dumping ground for the refined products, thus making us dependent on imported petroleum products. Also concerned that the IOC strategy or plan, which is capable of making Nigeria face higher rate of unemployment and poverty. The House is concerned that there is an urgent need for the federal government and relevant MDAs, including NUPRC, and key stakeholders to support Dangote Refinery to succeed. The House is worried that while federal government of Nigeria subscribed 20% shares in Dangote Refinery, the chairman, Aliko Dangote, claimed that Nigeria was unable to redeem its obligation and now owns 7.2% through NNPC Limited. The House is worried that there is an urgent need to look into these allegations and end or break all forms of dominance and monopoly in the petroleum sector by IOCs and confirm the quantum of federal government interest in the refinery. The House is worried that unless urgent steps are taken by the federal government, as well as investigate these matters and call on the IOCs to order, Dangote Refinery and its operation will be prematurely pushed or forced out of business, and this will not be good for us as a people. The House is also concerned that NNPC Limited is said to be unable to subscribe for the 20% shares that the country ought to own in Dangote Refinery. The House is called to resolve to urge the federal government, NUPRC, NMDPRA, key stakeholders and well-meaning Nigerians to support Dangote Refinery to succeed. Also urge the Minister of Petroleum Resources and all relevant NDAs to immediately take urgent steps and intervene in the matter of crude oil supply to Dangote Refinery. And finally, set up an ad hoc committee to investigate these matters of the inability of NNPC Limited to subscribe for the 20% shares in Dangote Refinery and lack of supply of crude to Dangote Refinery and report back to the House within 4 weeks for further legislative action. I so move, sir.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second this motion and to contribute. The motion is very important, Mr. Speaker. I rise to second this motion. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Vote of this motion, she say aye. Those against, she say nay. That is have it. This motion will be referred to a committee to be constituted in due course. Honorable Ibrahim Ayokule Isiaka. If Honorable Isiaka is around, please can you rise and move your motion?
I rise under Order 805 to seek the permission of the House under your leadership, especially 052, Roman figure 1 and 2, Roman figures 1 and 2, A and B, to enable me to take this matter of urgent public importance for an appeal to the proponents of proposed nationwide protest to maintain peace, eschew violence, and open the windows for meaningful engagements with the government at all levels in order to address their issues. Mr. Speaker, I so move with your permission. Thank you, sir.
I hereby second the motion of urgent public importance as ably moved by Honorable Ibrahim Isiaka. I so second, sir.
I rise to second the second leg of the motion, ably moved by my honorable colleagues, Honorable Ayokule Isiaka. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Those against, she say nay. That is have it. Honorable Isiaka, please proceed.
That whereas the citizens of Nigeria have the constitutional right to peaceful assembly and protest to address their grievances. The Speaker, whereas maintaining peace and engaging in constructive dialogue with the government is crucial for the resolution of issues facing the nation. Be it resolved by this House, this Honorable House appeals to the proponents of the proposed nationwide protest in Nigeria to consider a different path, a path of patience, dialogue, and collaboration to prioritize the line of peace and open channels of meaningful engagements with the government. Mr. Speaker, the House is further aware that the challenges we face as a nation is not so unique to Nigeria. There are issues that countries across the globe grapple with on a daily basis. In a world that is constantly changing and evolving, no nation is immune to the complexities of governance and development. The road to change is not easy, and the journey towards a brighter future often fraught with obstacles. But we must not lose sight of the incremental steps that have been taken by this government. They are the reforms that have been implemented and the strides that have been made towards a more prosperous Nigeria. Mr. Speaker, distinguished honorable colleagues, the House herefrom urges you, our fellow Nigerians, to consider the broader perspective, to act with wisdom and foresight, and to support efforts towards a more stable, secure, and prosperous Nigeria. Let us reason together. Let us listen to one another. And let us work hand in hand towards a brighter tomorrow. Be it resolved by this House of Representatives that this motion be communicated to all relevant stakeholders and the general public to promote a peaceful and constructive approach to addressing our national issues. Mr. Speaker, I so hereby submitted and moved. Thank you very much, sir.
I rise to support this motion, all-important motion, timely motion, reasonable motion, nation-building motion, a motion that is laid on this floor with an appeal. It's only a man who is patriotic, who believes in nation building, who presents such motion. So I thank you, Honorable Isiaka, for being sensitive as a leader in Nigeria. I know many of us here are sensitive. Many of the representatives here are passionate about our country. That was why we left all the things we are doing to come to be part of a government that will grow our nation. We have a problem. It is not in doubt, Mr. Speaker. There is no member here who disagrees with the point that there is a problem in Nigeria. But also there is no representative here who doesn't believe that problems that we refer to did not just arise overnight. It is a compilation of years of difficulties that piled up. There's an agreement in our mind also that 1 year is not enough to resolve hydra-headed problems. And as a solution hub, what we are here to do is to find the best plug to fit into the hole that will soothe the pain of Nigerians. Nigeria is bleeding, we agree, we are also Nigerians. So I want to join the prayers of this motion to speak to the people of Nigeria. Your crying is right. Your complaint of hardship is right. But is the solution found in carrying placard and lining the streets? Is the solution found in copying a country lesser than us? The references that are made today to Kenya and all the rest of them, they are smaller countries to Nigeria. We are giant of Africa. We must profile a solution that is better and sustainable and lasting. That solution is not found in our children being killed on the streets while protesting. It's not found in our raising placard. It's found in supporting the policies of government and understanding that these policies need time to begin to materialize. Rome was not built in a day. In 360 days, the president of this country have not rested, have not gone on jamboree, has not gone to pursue shadows. He has been deliberately, intentionally laying foundation for a nation that needs that stability. And we have been supporting, and I thank the Parliament for all the support. We have been giving support to all the policies of government with one single agenda in mind: the people, and the people. How to make our people better. And I want to say that we should support this motion, not only in this House, but in our various constituencies. Mr. Speaker, Ianzauza, the lover of peace, it's about time we take the message to our various constituencies and begin to appeal to them to be a little patient. Mr. President did not mince words when he said there will be difficult times, but it will not last forever. It is delayed gratification for greater gain. Let us wait a little longer. Let us not go to the streets. Hope is coming. We, your parliamentarians, are making sacrifice. Mr. Speaker, I want to appeal. Even if it means cutting our salary to help the provision of food for our people who are hungry, I want to appeal that the House look into that. I know our salary is not much, but even if it means we did that in COVID. During COVID, we cut our salary. We slice our salary and we help the people. This is a time that is calling for sacrifice. And I'm sure these people here are willing to make sacrifices for our people. Let them consider our appeal. Mr. Speaker, a gentleman here called me this morning, a member of the Parliament. He said, we are young parliamentarians. We want to go to appeal to Nigerians, even if it means kneeling down, asking them to be a little patient. And this parliamentarian is not from APC. This parliamentarian is from opposition party. He said, I'm young, like those who are agitating. I am on social media, like those who are agitating. But I know the effort we are making here to make the nation great. If it means kneeling down to them, we will kneel. The Parliament is calling on Nigerians. Please, bear with the government a little longer so that these policies will begin to see the light of the day. Thank you as I appeal to this House to in one voice support and be willing, if the leadership calls, for us to make sacrifices with our salary. Just a little pain for us to be able to provide food for our people. Thank you very much.
I recognize Abuja.
I want to use this opportunity to appeal to all Nigerians, particularly the younger ones, the youths, the women, the vulnerable, that it takes a reasonable period of time to correct what has been damaged for a reasonable period of time. But remember, tough times do not last forever, but tough men do. And there is always a light at the end of every tunnel. Mr. Speaker, honorable members, this government is only 1 year old. We are appealing to our young men to give the government the benefit of the doubt, bearing in mind the people's order. And they stated it categorically that in the next 1 or 2 weeks, students will be allowed to have access to apply to that, and checks have been transmitted or presented to some schools in the country. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, we should understand that the current president being spearheaded by Senator Asiwaju Bola Ahmed Tinubu is a democratically elected president, and he has been a Democrat substantial part of his life. You cannot go to market and buy integrity. You cannot go to market and buy position. Asiwaju has been working on that, and I don't think he can do anything to destroy his hard-earned reputation and democratic capabilities. we should give him and any other stakeholder in this government the benefit of the doubt, so that at the end of the day, we can come out of the quagmire the country is in. In addition to this, I am calling on the collaboration between the tiers of government, the federal, the state, and the local government, to be on the same page to bring an end to the current crisis we are facing. Lastly, I want to use this opportunity. To tell us that if you compare the cost of living, even among West African countries, you will appreciate the cost of living in Nigeria. The reason why I'm saying this, I'm telling you the truth, you can go and confirm, it's there in the public domain. Honorable members, I am neighboring a Cameroon Republic from my constituency, and it's the immediate country from my constituency. For you to have a haircut, in Cameroon Republic, it will cost you nothing less than 15,000 naira. But today in Nigeria, there is no saloon that you can pay more than 5,000 naira. We must appreciate this. Last 2 months, I took a breakfast and ended up paying 25 pounds. In Nigeria, that particular breakfast cost me less than 2,500 naira. So what I'm trying to say in a nutshell is a global issue. It's not peculiar to Nigeria alone. Our young men should understand this. We are appealing, we are pleading on our knees as young men to please consider peace for the country, so that at the end of the day, we will be out of our current situation. We thank you very much for listening.
Mr. Speaker, this issue is a critical issue, and it's timely for this hallowed chamber to discuss this matter. I'm a young man, I'm a product of struggle. Normally in every struggle, 3C is necessary: consultation, confirmation, and confrontation. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I believe, with all honesty, the organizers of the protest, the young people that are calling for the protest, have not put necessary steps to make a confirmation or consultation from the government of the Federation and the government at all levels. In that way, Mr. Speaker, calling protest directly to the street will definitely turn down the peace and unity of our dear nation. Mr. Speaker, I'm a comrade. Anytime we are calling for protest, we must consider the atmosphere that we can lead protest and a peaceful protest. But the present atmosphere, with the frustration, anybody or every organization that is organizing protest is definitely undermining the peace and unity of our dear country. It is constitutional to have or to organize protest, but always you must consider the national interest above individual or group interest. Mr. Speaker, these people that are calling for protest, I believe they don't know what will be the outcome when they go ahead to call for this protest. You can call for protest, but there is always non-state actors at the back door that are waiting to hijack what you think you organize on that peaceful manner. My candid appeal for the young people of the Federal Republic of Nigeria is kindly cited an example of what is currently going in the continent of Africa, that there is a conspiracy of the Western world. Do not undermine what your action can cause as far as the economic prosperity, peace, and the progress of your own country. Mr. Speaker, giving a reference, far back 2009, under the aegis of African Youth and Student Association, we organized a mega rally in Sudan, trying to showcase what we believe is unacceptable policies across the African country. But at the end of the day, the protest turned out to be unpeaceful, and the Sudanese that hosted the protest bear the consequences. And now the same issues is being championing in Kenya. The same issues has been championing in many African countries. Nigerian, always, the case is different. When we started something, we don't know where it is going to be end. So I call for my fellow young people that, yes, I'm a member of opposition extraction, but at this very critical time, it is a matter of dialogue. It is a matter of talks. This talk, consult before you take a step of confrontation. My fellow young people, understand the situation and allow the policies to strive and see where the necessary way forward. Mr. Speaker, on this note, I want to once more call on my fellow young people to please exercise one more patience to see where the policies direction of this present administration is heading to before making any further confrontation. Please consult, make confirmation before taking any further confrontation step. Thank you very much.
With your permission, the chair and honorable colleagues, I would like to amend the prayers, if the House so permits, that the members look into our salaries of, our salary is 500,000 naira. That we look at a percentage of that salary.
For point of correction, is 600.
Oh, 600, sorry. But my own doesn't get up to 600 when I receive it, sir. Maybe some deductions. But based on what you have said, Your Excellency, I'm moving that we amend that prayer to include that members sacrifice maybe 50% of our salary for a period of 3 months or 6 months to help Nigerians and to show that we are in support. I so move, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, at least 6 months, Mr. Speaker.
Months. Okay. Any seconder to this amendment? Honorable Maki.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the motion as amended by the Deputy Speaker. I so second. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, point of order. Aye. Those against you say nay.
Nay!
The ayes have it. We'll take 2 more contributions and then we put the question.
First and foremost, Mr. Speaker, I want to align myself with the contribution of the previous speakers on this very, very important motion. And to as well commend the mover of this motion for his foresight. Verily, we are facing serious challenges and we are not alone. As highlighted earlier, this is global. The world is passing through a very difficult transition owing to issues, economic issues relating to war and displacement of people that are supposed to be actively engaged in economic activities. In Nigeria, particularly the Northwest, have been the food corridor of the nation, and the Northwest is being invaded into serious crisis of banditry and insecurity, and therefore farmers could not go to their farm to farm. This created a difficult situation where food is becoming increasingly very, very expensive and unaffordable. This call for all these issues relating to coming up to protest, of course, is a constitutional matter. You have right to protest, our young men. But the nation first. We should be patriotic. We should be nationalists. We should consider our beloved nation. So my appeal to our teeming young men out there of purpose and conscience, please and please consider your country first, Nigeria. Our leader, Asuwaju, as you see him with his demeanor and disposition, is all about coming out with programs and activities that will raise the standard of Nigerians, particularly the youth. Students have been taken care under the issue of the student loans, and I'm sure it's going to be implemented in due course. Even on food issues, Mr. Speaker, just last week when we had the caucus meeting, we had a good news that the federal government is intervening to bring in food, so that at least the price of this food, that is a very important factor in the whole discourse, will go down and people will be able to have what to eat. But I will suggest, Mr. Speaker, that you and the leadership of the National Assembly should engage the leadership of these groups, if they are none, because we cannot deal with those that will camouflage under a hitherto legal process and create mayhem in the country. If these leaders are known, engage them for discuss, understand their plight. If it means you going around the geopolitical zones, Mr. Speaker, I think it's worth it that you move around to engage the youth and tell them the National Assembly, particularly the House of Reps, is with them in this issue, but they should consider that first they are Nigerians. And by the time they initiate something that will put the nationhood into jeopardy, they will be in for it. Everybody will be in for it. Because the issue of violence, we have seen how it started in the NSAS era. And you see how people attempted to hijack the whole process. It was only God's intervention that quelled that very unfortunate situation. So, Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I lend my voice to call on our teeming youth to be patient. Be patient, be patient, and be patient. The present administration under Asuwaju is committed to bringing Nigeria out of its doldrum. And inshallah, very soon, it's a matter of time, this will come to pass. But by the time now you go into trouble and we had issues, the country will go into serious challenge. You can see it, Sudan, where they are today. Somalia is still trying to battle. Other West African countries that are already into this doldrum are still struggling to get themselves out. So it's not the best time to protest now. Please and please be patient and stop. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Thank you very much, my honorable colleagues, for the attention and the opportunity.
Mr. Speaker, a hungry man is an angry man. We know this. Protests normally are ways of informing the government of what people feel, particularly negative things that are happening now. We all know that. I don't know of other states, but in my state, there are houses that for a good 4 or 5 days, they cook nothing, and they sleep on nothing, and they feed on nothing. People now go out to beg. Even those that are not supposed to beg now go out to beg. People use their children to go to beg, both females and males. Insecurity is increasing by day because if there is any hunger, definitely there will be violence. That's the truth of the matter. We cannot now sleep with our eyes closed. We are always sleeping with our eyes open because children or people will jump from one house to another, collecting funds, and taking anything they get for them to go and sell, for them to feed. Mr. Speaker, we know that Mr. President has a very good program for Nigerians. We all know that. I want to appeal to those that are instigating this protest, because I believe there are people behind this protest. It's not that people are just doing it by themselves. And I think DSS must work hard to find if they can at least be able to scout and get those people that are instigating or the leaders of these protests so that they can dialogue, we can dialogue with them. Let's talk to them. There is no any meaningful achievement in any world without peaceful coexistence. And Mr. Speaker, we know that the hunger is so very much that we just have to do something about it. We cannot tell them not to come and protest when we don't tell them what we intend to do. We have to have a program. We have to tell them that really Nigeria or country is going to do something about this. Today I saw Mr. President has sent in to states 2020 trucks of rice today. Let's hope that the rice will reach the people, because normally things that go to state don't reach the common man. That's the truth of the matter. Not all the people that are targeted get what is in the market. I mean, what is brought by governors or by the states.
Talba, please can you quickly summarize?
So thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to tell you that there is a need for dialogue with the groups, and there is a need to find out the instigators and make them see reasons. And I also want to appeal to those that are coming out for the strike to please shield their swords and let there be peace. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I rise this morning to make contribution to the EU.
Honorable Alims, can you stand up for recognition?
On the floor, sir.
Honorable Alims, please can you stand up for recognition? Thank you very much. You can sit down now.
Mr. Speaker, as sensitive as this motion, we have discussed extensively, appeal to the organizers of this protest, but we have not actually addressed the issue of the need for the government to do more to ameliorate the sufferings of the people. An angry man is an angry man. And there is need for the prayers too to address the side of the government. Some days ago, we were talking about the need for the government to make adequate financial provisions for most of their populations. These are some of the areas that can ameliorate the sufferings of the people. On the area of the students, a lot of students, even within their campuses, have demonstrated on the need for them to reduce or to stop the hike in the increase of school fees. And some of these things happens to fall on the deaf ear of the government because nobody is addressing their issue, not even the university communities. And generally speaking, there is need for government to do more. There is need for government to try more than what they're doing to ensure that people's sufferings are reduced and they see them as good and leading examples by maintaining a low-key life. Because to somebody who is angry and sees a lot of people going about, those in government, with convoys of exotic cars, they will not be happy. Then there is need for proper dialogue with the laborers. So I'm sure that since the last time they had discussion on the issue of minimum wage, nobody is attending to any other issues again about them. So they feel neglected. So there is need for this House to put in the prayers of these critical motions that the government should do more to ameliorate the sufferings of Nigerians. Thank you.
Mr. Speaker, I first of all want to align myself with the previous speakers. And also, Mr. Speaker, I want to make a passionate appeal to Mr. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu. We all believe that he has a very good plan for this country. his policies is a long-term plan for this country, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we need a very short-term plan, considering the emergency situation we're in. We are not praying, Mr. Speaker, if we allow this protest to take place or escalate, Mr. Speaker, we don't know where it stops. Mr. Speaker, just now, we cut our salaries. Mr. Speaker, I want to appeal to executive to do so, from Mr. President to Vice President to ministers to chief executive officers of MDAs and parastatals. Let's all of us cut our salaries, put the money in government copper, provide short-term solutions to this problem, Mr. Speaker. People are hungry outside, Mr. Speaker. Even if it warrants to slash the cost of petroleum, rebate back the hike of electricity, Mr. Speaker. Provide food, Mr. Speaker, for the people. If we can be able to provide these short-term plans, Mr. Speaker, I believe these young Nigerians will be ready to surrender and decline this planned protest, Mr. Speaker. This is my point, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Deputy Speaker, I think this is the way forward for now. Thank you so much for bringing this up.
My dear Speaker, my dear colleagues, there is serious hunger in the land. And I think we should all come together to try to solve this problem. This has past time of politics. This has past time of blaming one person. I think the leadership of this country should please look for those people who will join hands with them to see how well we can solve the problem facing this country. There are people who have been in these positions before, and they were able to manage the problems of this country. It has past time of being proud. Let us remove pride. Let us remove selfishness and invite people who truly would help to manage the economy of this country. I know our dear president is trying his best, but he's just one single human being. I know there have been people in the past who have been able to manage or try to manage the economy as good as it is. So since we have come to this stage now, I think we should remove everything that has to do with politics and join hands to manage the economy of this country. The youths that are out there trying to protest, they are sensible people. If they see that we are giving our best to manage the economy, I think they would try to come to our side. The hardship is not in one person's house. Everybody is feeling the hardship. Those who used to drink 2 bottles of water now drink 1 bottle because they cannot afford to. Even the rich also cry. So I beg Mr. President to look for all those who can join hands. There are those like Ngozi Okonjo-Iweala, like even Desiani, who tried to manage the petroleum crisis when we had petroleum problem before. Anybody, no matter what you think about them, should be called upon to see how best we can contribute to build the nation's economy. Thank you so very much.
Mr. Speaker, there's no better time for us to tell ourselves the truth. And I'm very happy with the way and manner you started. I'm very impressed with your clamor for government policies and programs to be driven towards providing security, welfare of Nigerian people. Mr. Speaker, the Parliament is a symbol of democracy across the globe. Mr. Speaker, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, even though I'm not a member of APC, has started to reset Nigeria. The courage that the Attorney General of the Federation, Lateef Fagbemi had, under the approval of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, to approach the Supreme Court on autonomy of the local government is a reference point. Mr. Speaker, we need to build on this. My leaders and colleagues over time, I've been in this parliament for quite some time, and I can tell you, Mr. Speaker, that it is the federal government that has carried the burden in this country in terms of employment. In my home state, with due respect, sir, except now, what you have in my home state at the local government level are aged workforce. Our youths are roaming the streets after graduating from schools, from universities. They are roaming the streets. Some of them are now growing at about 40, 50 years old. And it is their fundamental human rights to live a worthy life as a member of human race. Mr. Speaker, it's our duty in this parliament to sharpen government policies and drive them to achieve the goals before us. Mr. Speaker, we passed the budget to ensure synergy between ourselves and the executive. We support the government of the day, but Mr. Speaker, various committees of this parliament, members of this parliament, we have a duty, we have a job to do to ensure that our budgets are faithfully executed.
The protest, like my brother, the Deputy Speaker said, is a accumulation of bad governance that have started since 1960. And more especially in the last 24 or 25 years of uninterrupted democratic government. Mr. Speaker, if the government had been responsive to the people, to their welfare, I'm sure many Nigerians would not be exercising their constitutional right as enshrined in Section 40 of our 1999 Constitution as amended. Mr. Speaker, our nation has grown where every man must be a king in their own household. We are busy saying, wait, 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 be patient, be patient. These people are no longer patient, Mr. Speaker. We have to be honest about it. Despite the good intentions of the government of the day, people are hungry. And that hunger has led to a lot of people to high crimes and criminalities. In the Southeast is banditry, kidnapping, and assassinations. But Mr. Speaker, I support any plan because politics is gone, but now it's for us to come together as leadership to look at the welfare of the people. Everybody's talking about the welfare of the government. What about the people? Even in this chamber, honorable members are suffering. Our staffs are suffering. So, Mr. Speaker, our youth are exercising their fundamental human rights. But in the exercise of their fundamental human rights, there should be, as well, most of them to be circumspect. You can't destroy Nigeria. We must all come together to build a more formidable Nigeria and to ask the government of the day to look into issues that have been driving so many agitations in this country. We can't just put palliative on it, Mr. Speaker. We've passed that stage in our nation. How many trucks of rice can feed 250 million people? Cutting our salary, 360 people is only 108 million. What would that do? Does it solve the problem? So we need to, in this house, as a matter of...
Honorable, please kindly summarize.
Yes, I am.
We don't have time, please.
I am. We need in this house, Mr. Speaker, under your leadership, to come together to find solutions for unity, to come together, find solutions for prosperity, and to be attentive to the agitations of our people, to be able to sort it out and to nip it in the bud, Mr. Speaker. Thank you for yielding the time.
Thank you, Honorable.
Mr. Speaker, I would not go over what our honorable colleagues have discussed already. I just want to point out that, Mr. Speaker, you preside over a house that has 8 political parties, the first time in the history of the Fourth Republic. And we can see that we have a multi-partisan consensus in the House today, that we empathize with Nigerians and what Nigerians are going through. We understand that they have a right to dissent and to demand answers from government. But at the same time, we are appealing to Nigerians that they give us a chance to allow all of the reforms that are going on to be able to take root. But Mr. Speaker, there is one thing that I just want to propose, an amendment to the motion, which is to have the National Orientation Agency, Mr. Speaker, to respond to the demands. There is actually a list of demands that were made, 12 demands. And many of these things, Mr. Speaker, are issues that need some enlightenment for people to be able to know about what government is doing already. Dissent is an important part of any democratic society. People respond and resort to street-level protests when they feel they are not being heard, when they feel they are not being sufficiently engaged. So, yes. So, Mr. Speaker, I would want to propose an amendment to that motion, an additional prayer, to have the Minister of Budget and Economic Planning and also the National Orientation Agency to collaborate, look at those 12 demands, and sit down and address Nigerians on what some of those things are doing. The last point I'd like to raise, Mr. Speaker, you remember, Mr. Speaker, that you raised when we had the power summit.
If you look at the subject matter,
yes, sir.
Does it have any correlation with the amendment?
They have a list of demands. Well, at least we've seen, sir, from the reason we are even debating this at all is because what they've brought, they might be faceless, but they've brought something to the public. There's a viral list of demands. So I think that at least we have the benefit of history to guide us on this. When we had NSAS as well, there were also lists of demands. Mr. Speaker, these are things that I think even within Parliament, through your very consultative and inclusive way of leading the people's house, these are some of the issues you've addressed. When we had the power summit, Mr. Speaker, you also in your policy statement, you made that statement that we would have legislative action to ensure that power increase, review of tariffs that affect the lives of Nigerians goes through a consultative process as against just being announced and taking everybody unawares. So these are some of the issues that I think that Nigerians just need to hear from government. The reason people would resort to street-level protests is because they feel they are not being heard. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Correct, Mr. Speaker. I'm moving for an amendment.
Any seconder to the amendment?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
A point of order cannot be entertained unless if it relates to what he's just talking about.
Yeah, it's in line. It's in line with what the House spokesman just said.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. Speaker, I may not, and my constituents may not be happy if I don't contribute in this chamber.
Oh.
1 minute, please.
My brother, please, we are trying to put a question for an amendment. You can't interrupt if it has nothing to do with that particular amendment. So you need to wait for the appropriate time for you to raise your point of order, but not at this time.
Okay, I agree with you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you.
I stand to second the additional prayer that is proposed by Honorable Rotimi. Mr. Speaker, I so second.
Those against you say nay. The ayes have it. We'll take 2 more contributions from Honorable Adodugwa, Honorable Kumo, and then we round up. Please, others, bear with us. The only 2 people that will speak, and then we put the question. Honorable Adodugwa.
I remember in one of his very popular speeches to the nation, he once said that he shared in the grief, he also shared in the pain and the hardship of Nigerian people, how he wished he could have done otherwise. But he promised Nigerians that definitely government will continue to do the right things to be able to assuage and to be able to address the sufferings of Nigerian people. I also would like to put on the record that I rise here to put my voice and my weight behind the mover of the motion and those who have contributed on this motion to advocate for peace. Your Excellency, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, it is my belief that you can only have development when you have peace. You can only have progress when you have peace. You cannot have a stable country when that country does not enjoy peace. And for so reasons, I want to align fully with the movers and the advocates of peace in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We will continue to look at the pains of Nigerian people, our constituents who brought us to the floor of this House, to ensure the right things necessarily needed for their well-being and welfare is being done by the government and those of us that are placed in authority to address their problems. Mr. Speaker, I will also want to put slightly to the attention of Nigerian people very recent policies, recent good policies of the government that are meant strictly to address some of these concerns of Nigerian people. Only recently, Mr. Speaker, honorable members, that the president declared our borders open for staple foods, grains, to come into Nigeria free for importation without custom duty. This is an idea that is meant to assuage the suffering of the people, especially in terms of food security and supply of food to our doorsteps. Mr. Speaker, I am also aware that in some of the supplementary arrangements made by the present-day government, the intention was to address some of these issues that are really ravaging the welfare and well-being of our people. And that is why we will continue to give the government that kind of support to continue to do the right thing, Mr. Speaker. While we are doing that, sir, we must also plead with Nigerian people, like the Deputy Speaker has rightly said, to exercise a little patience. I am of the opinion, Mr. Speaker, that 12 years in a journey of about 12 months, in a journey of about 48 months, is too early for us to rush into taking these kind of actions. You should not be misled by whatever action or inaction going on in some neighboring countries. Whatever it is, the consequences of such actions, even in those countries, are not proud actions. You don't have proud results. So it's only when we can be able to bring things on the table, discuss them on the table, and be sure that we can resolve them in the overall interest of Nigerians that we can be able to make it. Mr. Speaker, I want you to continue to explore means in your relationship with the executive government, with the executive arm of government, as the leader of this House, to continue to look at those aspects where things can be made better for Nigerian people. Mr. Speaker, we cannot also be deterred from looking at the fact that we may have some undertones under the so-called alleged protest, national protest. Those undertones may, one way or the other, be having what we call political motivation. I want to believe that when you are talking of hunger, when you are talking of when you are fighting for prosperity, you are talking for national unity and development. Sometimes you have to do a little away with political interests and political motives. We must face ourselves, do the right thing without necessarily imputing unnecessary political motives. And in this regard, Mr. Speaker, I want to say without any fear of contradiction that while we will continue to encourage the government to continue to implore the use of the carrot, but the government must also be firm and stand on standby, not to discard the stick. Use the carrot approach to assuage people, support them, address issues and hardships, but the stick must not be discarded. Because where we find issues, or you have issues with people who have sinister motives to undermine the success of the present-day government, then definitely the stick will come in to address that situation. Mr. Speaker, I want to finally say that being a religious country, a country that is proudly Muslim and Christian people, we are proud of our two religions, that we call on our people to continue to support the government in authority, so that we will also answer the call of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where he says clearly in the Holy Quran, Ya ayyuhal lazina amanu, adi'ullah wa adi'u rasula wa ulul amri minkum. Which simply means everyone as a faithful is expected to be loyal to authorities, to be loyal to those who are in authorities, because those in authorities are what we call representatives of God on earth. And we will continue to do justice to our people as time goes forward. I want to thank you once again for giving me the opportunity. May God bless the Federal Republic of Nigeria.
I stand to support this motion and to thank all those who contributed toward this discourse. My contribution, Mr. Speaker, will be in three phases. One, to call on Nigerians, as somebody who is privileged to be in this hallowed chamber to discuss about Nigeria and only Nigeria, that please, we appreciate the pressure. We appreciate the situation we found ourselves. And we call on all of them to please kindly give this government an opportunity to see if we can be able to fix and do only the right thing. We sympathize with Nigerians, and we are going to do everything to ensure that we have a stable and prosperous
nation. My second call is to the government. While we appreciate government is doing its best through its policies because we are privileged as a parliament, we always receive policies and requests from government, and we are partnering with the government of the day to have a stable Nigeria. Government must do enough, even in the area of awareness. We have seen the policies of the government, but there are some certain areas where the government of the day is doing, but Nigerians people are not aware to the extent of what government is doing to bring us out from where we found ourselves in. For example, if the government of the Federation can be able to release over 70 trucks to each state of fertilizer free, none of the states is coming out to say the fertilizer is coming from the federal government and is free. The government have released over 1,000 trucks of fertilizer free just in a quest to have food security. I am calling on the government. I am not speaking for the government, but I am advising for us to collectively come out of this quagmire and make our people know what the government is doing. And to the desperate politicians, I want to call on the opposition without mixing words. As I said, desperate politicians, kindly allow government to do its business and wait for the next cycle. Do your best to see if we can win the heart of Nigerians to win elections through popular process. Let me say it very clear. The issues at hand are viewers are trying to pull out government. I want to call on, I apologize for those who, I apologize to the word I use, opposition.
Order,
but
please.
I use the word
Order, please.
I say,
please, let's have order. Please, let's have order. Order, please. Order, please.
I say, desperate opposition politicians, not you. I'm not referring, you are friendly. We are all doing one thing on the same government. Mr. Speaker, I hope I'm protected.
You are.
Thank you.
Since you have made that clarification that your statement is not targeted on them,
I'm not targeted
on others outside this chamber, you have made your point correctly.
But they are aware of themselves, they are hiding. Outside the covers of those we are talking about, I am a student of politics. I can rest anywhere and speak to myself, and I can talk to each and every person, eyeball to eyeball, of what I believe in. There are people, politicians in this country, that are vehemently ready to pull down government using whatever means. And I stand on my feet to say, I call them desperate politicians. I believe to this government, I belong to this government, I belong to this country. I cannot support anything that can pull down a legitimate government. So therefore, I commend politicians who are friendly. I shall submit.
Point of order. Thank you, leader.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Order, please. Order, please. Order.
Mr. Speaker, I want to specially and most humbly commend my colleagues in this House for the show of goodwill, solidarity, unity, and steadfastness in the collective responsibility to move Nigeria forward. Today, we have demonstrated in this House, contrary to what social media and others think, we not only have a sense of purpose, but a sense of mission for the betterment of Nigeria. and the conditions of our people. Mr. Speaker, a teacher of mine from Argentina, Jose Non, once said, organizing a revolution is easy. It is the next day after the revolution when you do not deliver. We have a government that listens, that is committed to delivering on its promises. And I think the debates we've had before today and since this morning show very clearly that above all interests, personal interests, this House is committed to the peace, progress, unity, and development of this country. And I want to especially thank you personally, and thank you as House leader and as a fellow Nigerian. Mr. Speaker, the journey now may look rough. I'm confident that we will reap the benefits. I'm confident that with the policies and programs that have been initiated, we will have no reasons to sorrow. And I believe that when we do go on recess, many of us, as much as possible, will also educate our people that there is light at the end of the tunnel and there is light in the tunnel now, provided you are moving forward and you see signs of progress. So mine is to say, as head of government business on the floor, to thank all of you for the sacrifices and to especially thank the Deputy Speaker for his contribution and his amendment to the original motion of Comrade Isiaka. I believe that it is this sense of purpose, sense of unity that we share. We try in this House to look beyond parties. When I'm outside here and they see the minority leader and I, they don't know which party we come from. They see us as Nigerians who are working together, and that's how we try to work in this House. And I think that is the sense for which we make Nigeria a better place. So, Mr. Speaker, I think we've had a good debate, and the contributions have been very rich. The amendments have been made, and I think what we need to do next is to put the questions so that we can move forward to other issues of the House. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.
I think we have taken enough.
Amendment, Mr. Speaker.
We have contributed enough.
Amendment, Mr. Speaker.
Amendment to what?
To the topic we are on, sir. Having listened to the contributions from the House, the wealth of contributions from the House, I want to take an excerpt from the speech given by distinguished Senator Shehu Sani on our Democracy Day.
Please, can you just go straight to your amendment? Just your amendment, please. We don't have the time.
Just in case, Mr. Speaker.
No, not just in case. Go straight to your amendment, please.
I want to go to the point, sir, Mr. Speaker.
Please, amendment only, Doctor.
Yes. Okay, my amendment is that should in case that this protest goes on, we should please tell our security agents to show restraints so that we do not have another round of bloodshed in this country. That's my amendment.
So how do you put it? As a prayer, this statement you have just made.
Yes, my prayer would be to...
I thought you are just contributing. This should be a contribution, not an amendment to anything. Contribution that should be noted in our votes and proceedings.
Okay, as the chair pleases, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Those in support of this motion as amended should say aye. Those against should say nay. That is it. Thank you very much, honorable colleagues. One thing I can take and tell the world concerning this motion is our collective resolution to sacrifice 50% of our salaries for a period of 6 months to support the government and the people of Nigeria on the issue of this food security, food shortages, and so on and so forth. Thank you so much for this sacrifice. May God Almighty bless you all. Thank you. Last but not the least is a motion coming from Honorable Al-Mustafa Ibrahim. Please, can you rise and move your motion?
Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I'm compelled to come under Order 8, Rule 5, matter of urgent public importance, to raise a serious matter concerning my constituency, the 2 local governments, on the need to mobilize security personnel to curb incessant banditry, cattle rustling, and kidnapping activities in Wurno, Rabafro constituency and environment. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Any seconder? Honorable, you take more than once today. Maybe we should allow the Chinese people to second this time around.
I stand this afternoon to second the motion ably moved by my senior colleague, Honorable Architect El Mustafa. I so second, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I rise to second the second motion of the second leg of this motion. I so second.
Those against you say nay. That is have it.
Thank you particularly for giving the people of Wurno Raba this opportunity by suspending the rules of the House to take this very important urgent matter. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, for the past 5 years, Wurno Raba constituency have been embedded with this serious security challenge. In fact, as I'm speaking to you, I can say more than a quarter of the total villages and inhabitants around those communities have been displaced. But I'm compelled to come under this window, House Rule 8, to push for your support to mobilize security personnel to curb incessant banditry and cattle rustling and kidnapping activities in Wurno Raba. Mr. Speaker, just 3 days ago, these people now being emboldened by whatever reason, now taking liberty of the farming activities, going from one hamlet to another, from one village to another, and sacking them, kidnapping. Of recent, they kidnapped about 40 people in Gododi, demanding 100 million from a very, very challenged people that have been battling with this insecurity for long. But I'm talking to you, those people are adamant to even listening to words, to accept the little we have to give them. Those people, including a pregnant woman of about 9 months, are still in their custody. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, as I'm talking to you, the people from Ragaga Fulani, Tumbula, Gawan Fulani, Koliel, Arba, Kuriya, Gandhi.
Honorable Ibrahim, please can you summarize?
Yes, I'm summarizing, Mr. Speaker.
We are reading, not summarizing.
I'm trying to raise this issue with heavy heart. It's not easy. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. So much has been said on this security issues. So I will go to the prayers. I want the House to resolve to urge the Chief of Army Staff and the Inspector General of Police to mobilize security personnel enough to the affected areas and establish forward operation bases at Rara and Huchi towns. These are centers that can easily be reached when there is a dire situation and call for emergency. These towns are within the 2 local governments, Raba, Wurno, and can serve the neighboring local governments of Gorenyo, Isa, and Sabon Birni as well. 2, to mandate the National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, to provide relief materials to the over 5,000 displaced victims in Gododi, Mekujera, Regis, Amia, Rara, Wurno, Gandhi, Lugu, Dimpisu, in the 2 local governments, and to urge the Honorable House to observe 1 minute silence for the report of the soul of the deceased. Then mandate the House committees on Army, Police, National Security, and Emergency and Disaster Preparedness to ensure compliance. I so move, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I rise up to second the motion, ably moved by my brother, my neighbor, Architect Ibrahim Raba, who is equally from Sokoto State. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Those against should say nay. That is have it. This motion is referred to the committees on Army, Police, National Security, and Emergency Matters for further legislative action. The last motion before me is coming from Honorable Bello Isa Ambarura. Honorable, can you rise and move your motion?
Mr. Speaker, distinguished colleagues, I rise up to crave the indulgence of this honorable House to set aside its relevant rules and present this motion on matter of urgent public importance. Mr. Speaker, knows that for many years now, the communities of Dambadeko, Dambakwanawa, Buwade, Garu, Tozei, Gigane, Asara.
Honorable, has it been seconded? Or because you are the rules and business, you have seconded your own motion? Any seconder to the first leg, Honorable Ajilo?
I rise to second the second leg of the motion as ably moved by my honorable colleague. Thank you very much.
Those against you say nay. There is have it. Honorable Ambaruna, you have only 2 minutes.
Mr. Speaker, the House may need to note that for so many years now, the communities of Dambadeko, Dambakwanawa, Buwade, Garu, Tozei, Gigane, Asara, Tungatudu, and Tudundoki, both in Guadaba and the Laperal constituency, have been bedeviled by incessant attack. The House may wish to know that most of the residents of the aforementioned communities have lost their source of livelihood due to frequent banditry attacks that last for many years without any respite, and often result in mass destruction of properties, kidnapping, and loss of life. Mr. Speaker, the House worried that attacks and destruction of farmlands of the people of Ilela and Guadaba Federal Constituency, who are predominantly peasant farmers, have caused them so much anguish and they can barely access basic necessity for decent living. Disturbs that if urgent steps are not taken to mitigate the effects of the attack, the untold calamities may befall the affected communities and the country at large. Finally, Mr. Speaker, the House may resolve that, urge the National Emergency Management Agency to, as a matter of urgent, provide relief materials to the people of the affected communities, both in Guadaba and Ilela of Sokoto State. Also, urge the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs to provide humanitarian interventions and improve the living conditions of the affected communities. Mandate the committees on emergency and disaster preparedness to ensure compliance. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, distinguished colleagues.
I rise to second the motion.
Those against you say nay. There is have it. This motion is referred to the Committee on Emergency and Disaster Preparedness for further legislative action.
Now, lawmakers have appealed to proponents of a planned nationwide protest to embrace dialogue and exercise patience with the federal government rather than being confrontational. Let's take a listen.
I also implore Nigerians from all walks of life and the entirety of the country to not heed the calls for protest, but instead continue to trust in the process. Say no to protest. Say yes to the process, which involve policy formulations from government that is people-centered, which the parliament have insisted on, that all policies of government must have the people at its center. Believe in this process, not the protest, and we'll be able to get the profit that this government has promised. The reforms of this current administration will take time, no doubt, but it will soon start to suffice, including a reversal of inflation, stabilization of the economy, and the ensuing multiplier effect in a massive employment boom as a result of industrialization. And the outcomes of the work organizations like the SEDC, which is the Southeast Development Commission, will engineer in the coming days. With Southeast Development Commission, we will leverage to improve agriculture, entrepreneurial skills, will enable industrialization of the region, and our innovative mindedness will leverage the opportunities in the digital economy. Our creativity will bet a greater cultural and entertainment platform, such as the Igbo Wood. Our youth and women demography will play a major role in the energy of our development. It is time to put our huge gap deposit in the region to use for industrial parks. The gas in our zone will aid these industrial parks that will bring value to the nation. Most of the radicalized youths in our region who has been crying because of the seeming rumors of marginalization and alienation from the center will now have jobs to engage them productively, amongst others. It is no more time to carry arms. It is now time to take up skills that will be stimulated by the Southeast Development Commission. This is a foundation for peace and security in the Southeast. There's no better foundation than this. I therefore urge you to participate more in governance by following the right channels of engagement with your respective state governments and the legislators representing you in the National Assembly. In the 36 state houses of assembly, it is through active and constructive engagement that we can make our voices heard and drive meaningful change. As the great Chinua Achebe once said, a man who now belongs to the class of our ancestors, he said, a functioning, robust democracy requires a healthy, educated, and participatory followership. We ask you to follow this government, for the dividends of democracy is closer than you think.
The protest may not necessarily be the solution. I think that dialogue is the best option. So everybody coming together to see how we can solve these problems. The government has not come to say that there is no hardship or there is no hunger. All the issues that have been raised that is triggering the protests is something that government has accepted, and government is saying that there should just be a little more time. The government is calling for patience and understanding to see how these issues can be resolved. You know that these issues will not just be resolved one-off. Sometimes people don't even understand that government activities is not an event, it is a journey. It's something that we'll continuously do. And the president of the country has re-echoed his call for patience and understanding. I'm aware that the Secretary to the Government of the Federation is meeting with members of the cabinet, the ministers, to see how they can come up with a position of this. Even in the parliament, we're also working around the clock to see that we just ease Nigerians off this hardship and all of that. The National Assembly passed the minimum wage bill into law, which is one of the ways that we're trying to reduce the sufferings and hunger and hardship. So I think I'm just calling for Nigerian youth to be patriotic. They are. We're just asking for more understanding. And we're talking about over 100% increase in the minimum wage. It has never happened before. Moving from 30,000 naira to 70,000 naira, mathematically that's about 120%. And there is no employee, whether in the private sector or public sector, that we want to underestimate the importance in 100% rise. The corpers from the National Youth Service Corps are also going to benefit from this minimum wage because the allowances of the corps members is usually a function of the minimum wage, okay, where additional 10% is worked on the minimum wage. That is how we determine the allowances of corps members. So this is also an automatic rise for the corpers allowances, okay, and the scheme is mobilizing hundreds of thousands of youth corps members across the country year in, year out. So the effect of this will also spread in that scheme.
And that's the size of our package on the program today from the National Assembly, House of Representatives. We thank you so much for your time. Do join us again for another episode of the program. I am Mitaire Ikben. Stay patriotic and be out of trouble. Bye for now.
24 hours a day. NTA International is with you. In your living room, office, and everywhere, anywhere. We provide the company you desire in terms of balanced and up-to-date news, programs, and the best of entertainment. Tune in to DSTV channel